Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini-series with the Los Angeles Angels. And we are about to begin the 2026 season. Made some very significant moves with the Angels this past off season. Most notably, signed the top two free agents on the market, or at least the two most expensive free agents on the market in center fielder Kyle Tucker and first baseman Vlad Guerrero Jr., who are slotting in as our third and fourth hitters, and also signed the veteran starting pitcher Michael King, who will head up our rotation, along with a couple of other new additions in Robbie Ray and Christian Scott. So a very different looking team than a year ago when we won just 64 games as I took over the team right before the season started. That being said, the preseason predictions were not kind to us, expected to improve by only 7 games to 71 wins this year. We're already facing a pretty significant injury, unfortunately, and that's to our starting shortstop, Zach Neto, who was playing second base in spring training to try to get a little more versatile defensively. He fractured his finger about a week ago, out for another 4 weeks, so a big bummer to be losing Neto to start the season for the second straight year. And it just kind of documents that we don't have a lot of margin for error with this team. Outside of Tucker and Guerrero, who we mentioned, and Neto and Adley Rutschman, who we traded for last year when we moved on from Mike Trout, the rest of the players on our team are either mediocre veterans or they are players that we think have some potential but haven't quite reached it yet. And our bullpen is very weak. I think our starting pitching could be decent with the guys that we've added if people stay healthy and pitch up to their potential, which is always the challenge. But the bullpen is definitely lacking. Gotten a lot of good suggestions from viewers on how to improve the team, and certainly agree that we're not where we want to be. But when I think back to free agency, the one move that I thought I would make and that I didn't make was bringing on Alex Bregman. But he's going to be 32 years old in less than a week. He signed for $88 million a year over 5 years. And when we look at him now, he's a good defensive third baseman. I don't think he's a great defensive third baseman anymore. And his bat is fairly average in terms of the profile at this point. Admittedly, he put up a 124 WRC plus for Boston last year in 373 at-bats. But in his last 2 major league seasons, he's had a 3.5 WAR and a 3.1 WAR, and you can see his WAR has dropped off every year since 2022 at this point. So there's certainly an argument that he's a declining player. Would Bregman have made us better this year, and could we have afforded him? Without a doubt. But would having Bregman on the team 3 or 4 years from now, making 18, 19 million a year, make us a better team? I don't know. And we do have some money available for this year. We'll likely be moving on from some arbitration eligible players to clear up some more money as the offseason begins. Clearly, no guarantees who's going to be available on the market in terms of upcoming free agents. But there is one that I certainly have my eye on, and that's Skubal from the Tigers. He's going to be looking for a ton of money, but if he does hit free agency, actually he's with the Brewers now. What the heck happened there? Obviously they traded him. Yeah, they traded him right before the trade deadline from the Tigers to the Brewers. Then he signed a 1-year extension. But he could certainly be a way to jumpstart the rotation even further. You can see between Sale and Bummer and then Joe Jimenez, who we just traded for, that there will be some interesting pitchers on the market next year. Brandon Woodruff, who was on the market this past season, likely to hit again. So we will have some options to improve this roster further when the valuations in both the trade market and the free agent market after our first few signings just weren't what I was looking for. Decided we'd rather make an incremental step forward this season, hopefully. And I'm still hopeful we can get to around 500. We do have the ability to take on some contracts as we get closer to the trade deadline. But thinking medium to longer term, wanted to retain the flexibility to make some more significant moves to improve this roster next off season, when hopefully there will be a little more value out there. So certainly hoping and expecting that the team is going to be more competitive than the 71-91 record that we were projected to have. And we'll start finding out exactly how that goes in the coming days. And I meant to mention at the start of the episode that we had put in a waiver claim, and fortunately it worked out successfully. So this should help our bullpen a bit. The right-handed reliever Colin Snyder was waived by the Seattle organization. Certainly think that he could be an upgrade to some of the arms in our bullpen. So glad to have the Vanderbilt product on board. And he's a guy who making the major league minimum this year. Looks like he is going to be eligible for free agency after this season, although that doesn't... Oh, I think once we put him onto the roster, I think that would move him into more of an arbitration situation. And as expected, now that we've added Snyder to the major league roster, will be arbitration eligible next year. Right now expected to make about $1.6 million. Certainly could see him someone who becomes a important part of our bullpen for the next couple of seasons. And it looks like there were some of the goofy middle of the night international games that almost nobody watches that Major League Baseball somehow thinks is good marketing to start the season, since although March 24th was when our season technically got underway, we haven't played a single game yet, and we are here on April 2nd is tomorrow, getting ready to begin the season on the road at our division rival Rangers. You can see a lot of National League games to start the first month of the season. St. Louis, the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Phillies, and the Pirates on the schedule for our Los Angeles Angels. So outside of the first series at Texas, the only other divisional games we'll be playing will be at the end of the month against the Athletics. I guess the only positive part of MLB starting the season once again, thousands of miles away from its core fans, is that gave Zach Neto another week to heal, so he'll hopefully only miss about the first 3 weeks of the season when all is said and done. And we're off to a shockingly fast 4-0 start, sweeping the Rangers on the road, so that is a fantastic start to the season. One bad piece of news, though, Brooks Lee, who's had to take over at shortstop with the injury to Neto, suffered a concussion today and is going to be out 5 to 6 weeks. He was off to a really fast start, 5 for 13 with a homer and 3 ribbies. So our already suspect defense is going to take another step backwards until we're able to get Neto back on board, unfortunately. And we've promoted the young shortstop, Kyron Paris, has pretty solid range. He was with us a couple of years ago with the Angels, spent all of last year in AAA Salt Lake, and off to a good start there, but hopefully he can at least stabilize things defensively for us for the next several weeks. And he certainly could be fighting to have a permanent spot on the Major League roster, given that at this point a lot of our utility infielders and unfortunately some of our starting infielders are veterans who we signed to minor league contracts that likely aren't a big part of our future. Just to be clear, I'm talking to you, Dylan Moore. I'm talking to you, Brendan Rodgers. I'm talking to you, IKF. And we've slipped a little bit. The record's still at 6-3, though certainly better than we would have hoped through 9 games. Unfortunately, the injuries beginning to add up. Joe Adele, not hitting for much power, not hitting much at all yet, now out with a dead arm for 2 weeks. Potentially more significantly, closer Ben Joyce is injured with a diagnosis pending. Hopefully that will not be anything too significant given that our bullpen is suspect to begin with. And fortunately, the injury for Ben Joyce, not all that significant. Forearm stiffness, going to be out for about 4 days. So we're going to just try to manage that by benching him rather than wasting over than 2 weeks on the IL. Also, the draft pool officially revealed today. Take a look at the top 10 prospects here. Kevin Miller looks like the shortstop could be a pretty interesting player with the new scout that we put in place at the end of or at the beginning of this offseason. We've got a lot of work to do to get up to speed on these guys. Ivan Ramos Dominicas, left-handed hitting catcher, looks like a very interesting prospect with potentially really good defense and a very interesting bat. Adam Pooley, 18-year-old third baseman, good power, good eye, competent defensively, looking for some pretty big money. Andres Rodriguez, college center fielder, pretty far along in his development, really good speed and outstanding outfield range, although doesn't always know how to handle the ball when he gets to it, but still a potentially interesting prospect with that range, left-handed hitter, someone who could be helping our outfield in the not-too-distant future. Lawrence Fleury, second baseman, outstanding contact hitter, but really question the rest of his hitting skills. Jeff Burris, another catcher, not as good defensively and not as interesting a bat as Dominicus. Grady Emerson, 18-year-old shortstop, looks excellent defensively, good speed, and a bat that could play pretty well at the major league level. Another catcher, Jeremy Silverman, really like the home run power in the eye. Looks like he could be competent defensively. Good glove skills, not the greatest arm in the world. Another college player, Bob Cochran, a shortstop, really nice range, decent speed, and pretty good contact and gap power. Not going to draw a ton of walks or hit a bunch of home runs. And then Nick Stremmel, 18-year-old shortstop, similar profile, focused on contact and gap power. Really nice glove for an 18-year-old. So we're going to be focused on getting up to speed on all of these players by scouting them and the rest of the pool very aggressively over the next few months. We are going to have the 6th pick in the draft this year, so likely we'll have an opportunity to select most of the players that we just talked about with our 6th pick. The big question is whether the ones that we really like will be on the board at that time. And the Angels continue to play pretty well, running our record to 8-4, although we were crushed by the Colorado football team 17-3 yesterday. All we could manage was a lone field goal. Unfortunately, Benton Joyce suffered a setback. Going to be about another week till he's recovered from that forearm stiffness. So probably should have just put him on the IL, but those are the gambles you take sometimes. And good news, Zach Neto ready to come off of the injured list. Record stands at 10-7, so after that 4-0 start, we've been slightly below 500. But fortunately, those first 4 wins all still do count. And obviously have had some injury issues over these first couple weeks of the season with Lee and Adele joining Neto on the IL. Probably give Neto a quick rehab assignment for a game or two in AAA before bringing him back up and making some roster decisions. Do we send Kyron Paris back down? He's hitting .271 in 48 at-bats and is a slightly better defensive player than some of the other guys that we've got in the mix in the infield right now. So I think there's an argument to keep him on the team. One other thing, though, is right now Paris is pretty competent at second and shortstop. We could send him down to AAA for the next month, get him trained up at third base and in the lineup every day, and kind of improve his versatility for us in the coming years as a potential utility infielder. So some decisions to make after Neto gets a few at-bats in AAA. We'll let you know what we decide. And the injuries just keep coming. Nolan Shawnell out for 3 weeks with a hip strain. Hitting pretty well for us, 279 average with a homer and 6 ribbies and 68 at-bats. Does have 6 doubles already and a couple steals. So he's put up a 118 WRC+. He's been playing primarily in left field this year, where he's been below average as expected in terms of his zone rating and defensive efficiency, but hasn't been a complete disaster out there. And if he's putting up a 118 WRC+, we certainly can handle some less than optimal play out of a left fielder. And even potentially more significant than Shawnell's injury is that both Robbie Ray and Rusney Contreras are awaiting a diagnosis on some injuries that they have recently experienced. So that could disrupt the pitching staff further. And we did end up sending Kyron Paris down to make room for Neto. Neto only played 1 game in AAA, 1 for 2 and 2 at-bats, drove in a run, but we don't want to wait. The top 4, when we have Neto, Rutschman, Tucker, and Guerrero together, is pretty solid. Now, there are a lot of issues with the rest of our order, but wanted to get Neto back as soon as possible, especially with the other injury issues we've been experiencing. Looks like we're a couple days away from Adele getting back. Still waiting to hear on Ray and Contreras. Brooksley out for 3 weeks, and Shawnell also out for 3 weeks. So we're trying to piece this thing together with duct tape and Band-Aids right now. Taking a look at some of the new additions, hasn't been going incredibly well. Michael King, 0-2 with a 7.08 ERA. Take some solace in the fact that his Sierra is more than 3 runs better. His FIP minus, albeit below average, is respectable-ish at 109, and he has been above replacement level. So hopefully things will get moving in a better direction for him. Vlad Guerrero Jr., only 1 homer and 5 ribbies through his first 18 games, so he's been a well below average offensive player, which certainly we expect will reverse and move towards the mean. Kyle Tucker hitting only 224, but he's had some pop in the bat, 5 homers and 14 ribbies in his first 18 games in an Angels uniform. So he's been about a league average offensive player. Hopefully both Tucker and Guerrero Jr. will provide more offense going forward. Been nice to see Logan O'Hoppe off to a good start, hitting 323, 3 homers and 10 ribbies, well above average offensively as our DH. And he's obviously also our backup catcher. He's caught 3 games when Rutschman has needed a day off. And the hope is that King will be pitching much better too, because you look at the rest of the rotation, and Detmers, Ray, Christian Scott, and Jose Soriano have all been good to respectable. So if King gets going and if Tucker and Guerrero get going, we're 10-8 without a ton of production from the 3 new additions. If those guys all get moving in a better direction, maybe we can really start stringing some wins together, especially as the team gets healthier. That being said, I'm expecting the next time I talk to you is going to be when I find out that either Ray or Contreras is out for the rest of the season. And the news on Contreras certainly could have been worse, out for an oblique strain for 5 days. Still waiting to hear about Robbie Ray, however. And another injury, Brendan Rodgers, bone marrow edema in his wrist, going to be out 5 to 6 weeks. Honestly, this could be the end of his run with us here in the Angels. He has been starting for us against left-handed pitching and hitting just a buck 36 in 22 at-bats. Thought that the veteran who we signed as a minor leaguer back in February might provide a little bit of stability for us, but he's been well below replacement level with negative OPS plus and WRC plus and WRAA. So he has been a pretty brutal player for us thus far. And unfortunately, the injury to Robbie Ray is a serious one. Ulnar nerve entrapment, going to be out 2 to 3 months. 2-0 with a 4.19 ERA for us. You may remember we picked him up in a trade with the Yankees. They were willing to hold on to all of his contract for next year. We sent them Evan White, who looks like he's in Scranton, Sam Hentges, who is with the big club, and Jackson Rose. We did get Luis Serna in return, who's starting the year off for us in high A ball in the Northwest League. And we got cash in return. Ray was just a pure rental. He's only going to be with us for this year, most likely, because I'm assuming he's looking for pretty big money. $8 million for a year, so I guess it's not impossible that he'd be back with us in a year, but we know that he's not going to be with us for the next 2 to 3 months, unfortunately. And we've made it to the month of May. Despite all the injuries, it was a respectable month for the Angels, a 13-12 record. So we're 2.5 games behind in the AL West and just 1 game out of the final American League wildcard spot. Not a lot of Angels on the leaderboard. The new reliever, Jason Adam, picked up 3 wins in relief for us, even though he's pitched just 6 innings and is tied for second in the American League in Ws. Certainly don't expect that to continue over the course of the season, but a respectable start when all is said and done. Taking a look at the team statistics, runs scored, tied for 6th in the American League. So you certainly would think that having Tucker and Guerrero in the lineup would help with that. And runs allowed were 8th. We're middle of the pack, given that we were last in the American League in runs allowed a year ago and 13th in runs scored. The fact that we're just over 500 and we're kind of respectable in both of those categories a month into the season, even with all the injuries that we've had, is not a horrible development. We're actually 1 game worse than Pythagorean expectations, so you can even argue we've perhaps gotten a bit unlucky thus far. And we ended up taking the first series of the month of May, won the final 2 games against the Twins at home, go on a road trip now to the Athletics and then Atlanta. Thinking about division games, we've got 3 at home against Texas in the middle of the month, and then we've got 4 at home against Houston towards the end of the month, but still a shocking number of games against National League teams in the first couple months of this schedule. And we'll take a quick look at the injured list. Both Shawnell and Brooks Lee only about a week away from returning, so hopefully we'll have them back in the not-too-distant future. Longer term, obviously, until Robbie Ray and Bendon Rogers will be back, and then Robert Stevenson, who we've been paying the entire time that we have been playing this series and have never actually seen him on a major league field. Could be back sometime in late July, more likely early to mid-August. And a big win today against the A's, a 10-1 victory, and Rushman goes 5 for 6 with a couple of singles in the first and second innings, an RBI double in the fourth, another single in the sixth, and then an RBI single in the seventh. So nice to see some production from our franchise catcher at the plate. And although we got crushed again in the last day of the week in another football score, 14-0, our other catcher, our backup catcher, who starts for us more often than not at DH, Logan O'Hoppe, was the AL Player of the Week, 11 for 25 with a ridiculous 5 homers and 10 ribbies. O'Hoppe having an outstanding season for us. Definitely doesn't seem that playing in the DH role is causing him any problems, because sitting here on May 11th with 13 home runs already has more dingers than he had for us a year ago. Ridiculous 187 WRC plus and a WAR of close to 2 for the young catcher slash first base slash DH. And Brooks Lee back from the IL. We're going to play him at second base against right-handed pitching. Definitely will stabilize things defensively there. We are going to keep Dylan Moore in the lineup, who was playing second base for us against lefties. Moore hitting just 248, but definitely has some pretty significant splits this year. Hitting 308 against left-handed pitching, although admittedly his WRC plus is worse than it is against righties, hitting just 230 against righties, but has gotten probably a bit lucky to have 5 home runs in 87 at-bats. Certainly don't expect that that's going to continue when we look at his ratings, which suggest he may be slightly more proficient against left-handed pitching. Certainly has the ability to at least draw more walks against lefties. So we're getting a little bit healthier. Unfortunately, Mr. Shawnell still unknown when he'll be back from that hip strain. We had thought he was about a week away, but not quite there yet. And Simda had a couple of days. Shawnell is finally back, so that's good to see. As we sit here, we made it to the middle of May. 21-17 record, second place in the AL West, 3 games behind the Astros. And we are tied with the Twins and the Tigers for the second and third wild card spots in the American League. Logan O'Hoppe continues to have a monster year, second in the league in hitting, tied with the Judge for the league lead in homers, leading the league in ribbies, leading the league in OPS, and second in the league in batter WAR. So O'Hoppe having a monster season. Not surprisingly, the reliever Jason Adam no longer among the American League leaders in wins this year. And just like in the early stages of this season, O'Hoppe is chasing a potential triple crown. I can say the same thing about Elly De La Cruz, leading the National League in batting at 384, home runs with 11, and he is third in ribbies at this point. So potentially a couple of monster seasons from some young sluggers here in 2026. And we made it to June 1st, and when all was said, it was a really good month of May for the team. Had some problems early in the month and then a little bit towards the middle part of the month, but we did end up winning 6 of our final 7 games. So as we sit here on June 1st, 30-24 record for our Los Angeles Angels. We are tied for first with the Astros, and we are tied for the 3 wild card spots in the American League with the Rays and the Astros, half a game up on the Tigers and a game up on the Mariners. Obviously, either us or the Astros would get the division title. Logan O'Hoppe still having a really nice year, although the batting average has dipped to 286, tied for second in the league with 40 ribbies and third in the league in OPS. Just found out some good news. Christian Scott, who we had picked up in that trade with the Mets right before the trade deadline, he was injured at the time, but felt like he was young, had some potential, and given the dearth of talent in our starting rotation, we're willing to wait for him to get healthy and hope that he could help us out this year. And help us out he did in the month of May, 5-0 with a 1.59 ERA. For the year, 6-1 with a 2.88 ERA. So he is off to a really good start. Take a look at the team statistics here, and we're third in the American League in runs scored. So that's shockingly good. And we're somehow second in the American League in runs allowed. So I don't think the team is this good. I think we're getting incredibly lucky, although with a 32-22 Pythagorean record, we're actually 2 games below where we should be. After that 13-12 April, we were 17-12 in the month of May, thanks to that big finish. So feeling a lot more confident about this team than we were at the start of the episode, especially as we continue getting healthier. Brendan Rodgers only 3 days away from his return, although whether or not there will be a roster spot for him is still in question now that both Neto and Brooks Lee are healthy. Robbie Ray about 6 weeks away, and Stevenson still a couple of months away. Unfortunately, Kyle Tucker suspended for another 3 games. He's got the WRC plus up to 115, 249 batting average, but does have 10 homers and 35 ribbies for us, certainly giving us a legitimate offensive presence in the middle of the lineup. We'll also check in on the other big acquisitions. Michael King, I guess he's slightly getting better after a slow start. 3-4 record with a 5.34 ERA. The Sierra down to 3.54, and the WAR slightly above replacement level. Obviously, at $19 million a year, we're hoping for more from him, but at least he's going out and pitching for us every 5th day. And then the biggest ticket item, Vlad Guerrero Jr., close to league average, which is certainly not what we expected from him. The batting average at 260, 7 home runs and 24 ribbies and 196 at-bats. So for whatever reason, not off to an incredibly hot start for us. Hopefully, as the weather heats up, though, we'll begin to get a lot more production out of VG Jr., because certainly to be sitting here at 30-24 with Vlad Guerrero Jr. being a below-average offensive player, we would take that any day of the year as this season was getting underway, and certainly hope that we can maintain a pretty solid winning percentage and maybe even make it better once Guerrero starts hitting. And I've been scouting the rookie class pretty aggressively, and you can see even a month and a half after it was announced, still have low scouting accuracy on a lot of the top prospects. Similar situation with some of the top pitchers. We do have a new scout. We are only a little over a year into this playthrough, but I do think that with the strong boost to scouting that you get at the draft combine, which is coming up in just a week, that it seems like a little more difficult to scout players, at least the rookie prospects here in OOTP 26, than it was in 25. Again, I don't know if that will normalize over the years if you've got a scout in place who's a great scout for multiple years and he starts getting to know these guys when they're 15, 16, 17 years old. Would love to get to a position where I feel like we've got very high scouting accuracy on everybody. And it might just be the quirk in the game that we just haven't built up the database of our scouting reports with these younger guys yet. But it could also be that the draft combine is going to be critically important going forward to ensure that you've got the best information possible on a targeted list of players, and the rest of the youngsters and amateurs, you're going to be going into the draft with a little bit of a fog of war, because certainly we have at this point $25 million invested in our scouting budget, and we did hire a pretty darn good scout, Cody McAllister, last offseason, who's excellent at scouting amateurs. So seems like the pace of quality scouting reports and very high scouting accuracy is a little slower here in OOTP 26 than it was in previous versions. Not saying it's good, not saying it's bad, but it does appear to be a little different. And before we finish off the episode, check in. Team chemistry appears pretty good at this point. Ron Washington does have a bad relationship with the new superstar Vlad Guerrero Jr. Hopefully that's not impacting his performance all that much. Brendan Rodgers, who's recovering from that injury, is a leader in the locker room. Matthew Lugo, the youngster who's been up with us this season is the captain personality. He only starts for us against left-handed pitching, so it doesn't come into play all the time, but he is having a respectable year for us. 269 average with 4 homers and 10 ribbies in 93 at-bats. Stolen a couple bases for us. He's walked 8 times, so a decent 343 on-base percentage, 104 WRC plus. He's been slightly above replacement level, and also, as we noted, a good influence in the clubhouse for us. Taking a look at the revamped front office, staff cohesion also pretty solid, and definitely feel like with some of the changes we made, we're getting better teaching of defense to our players. So things for the Los Angeles Angels are going about as well as we could have hoped here through the first couple months of the season. Next time around, we will check in on the draft combine, spend some time there. Also do our mid-year review and really get closer to starting to prepare for the draft and hopefully getting some good scouting reports on those players who are eligible. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.